Okay, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى ونفعنا الله بعلمه وعلمكم آمين. الخامسة عشرة التابع. Right, so this is مبني. The 15th is, that's the مبتدأ. التابع للمنصوب وهو أربعة النعت مثل ونحو رأيت زيدا العاقلة، والعطف نحو رأيت زيدا وعمرا، والتوكيد نحو رأيت زيدا نفسه، والبدل نحو رأيت زيدا أخاك. Right, and this could also be عطف بيان. So how could it be عطف بيان رأيت زيدا أخاك? Meaning, I saw your brother, I saw Zaid, your brother. Maybe there's, so I've mentioned the word أخاك للتوضيح فقط. Right? As opposed, I saw your brother. I saw, how do I say this? I saw Zaid, your brother, or your brother Zaid, right? So the important thing is akhaka, right? As opposed to, so where's the emphasis? If the focus is Zaid, and I don't really need to mention akhaka, it's just there for tawdih, then that's atf bayan, right? But if the focus is akhaka and I could just drop Zaid, right? Then akhaka is badal. Okay. So what is a atf bayan? It is essentially a na'at which is not mushtaq ولا مؤول بالمشتق, right? So al-aqil is mushtaq, but akhaka is not mushtaq. قرأت what's كشاف القناع? What's a sharh on the iqna', right? So قرأته في كشاف القناع شرح الإقناعي. So شرح الإقناعي is an atf bayan of كشاف القناع because it's known as كشاف القناع, and you just added شرح الإقناع just for توضيح. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right. Okay. السادسة عشرة الفعل المضارع إذا دخل عليه ناصب ولم يتصل بآخره شيء، ونواصبه أربعة: أن ولن وإذان وكي، نحو أن تقول نفس، ولن نبرح، وإذا أكرمك، جوابا لمن قال أريد أن أزورك، ولي ولا ولكي تأسوا. So this is لام وكي. لكي لا تأسوا. Right, so the lam is a half jar, the k is the nasib, and the la has no amal. وتضمر أن بعد أربعة من حروف الجر وثلاثة من حروف العطف. Right, so this is basically the طريقة الوصفيين, right, which is the descriptivist approach of the Basranans, is that when I see a harf doing nasb, it's not necessarily doing nasb, because that harf has another role. So I see a harf jar which does nasb. So I'm going to say it's not really doing nasb, there's something implied. If I see a harf atf doing nasb, I'm going to say there's something implied. And where does the whole idea of that come from? The idea that you could say uridu jitu li'an adrusa wa an adrusa. So the fact that you could say li jitu li'an adrusa wa jitu li adrusa tells us that there's an implied an. Because sometimes you say it, sometimes you don't. So now I can infer that if you said hatta, سأدرس حتى أنجح, that means حتى أن أنجح by extension. When it says, so that's what's happening with the huruf al-jar. There's always an implied after it. And then we extend that to the fa and to the waw and the o. Right? So that's the kind of the logic that they use. For the Kufiyun, خلاص, the first sababiyya itself, the lam itself is doing jar. That's it. Doing nasb, and that's it. Right? So I don't advise that when we're teaching grammar to people to begin with, you shouldn't mention this. It's not very useful at all, right? Just leave it as it is. جئت لأدرس, right? That's it. You know, لي حرف نصب, أدرس منصوب, خلاص, move on, right? Because that's actually quite complex otherwise. قال أريد أن أزورك. Okay, fine. وأما حروف الجر فلا تعليل نحو لتبين للناس, right? أي لأن تبين للناس. So what's actually happening then is لأن so أن plus تبين للناس is becoming لبيانك للناس. لبيانك للناس. So in reality the lam is doing jar to the masdar mu'awwal. We call it the masdar mu'awwal, right? The an plus the verb after it becomes a masdar mu'awwal, and so it's li'an libayanika linnas, right? ولام الجحود, right? جحد is to negate something, right? نحو ما كان الله ليطلعكم على الغيب. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would never show you the unseen, right? So ما كان الله كائنا لأن يطلعكم على الغيب, أي ما كان الله كائنا لإطلاعكم على الغيب. So in reality, the majrur is the maf'ul, is the masdar mu'awwal that is understood from an plus yutli'. Okay? لم يكن الله ليغفر لهم, same thing. حتى نحو حتى يتبين لك, right? حتى يتبينك لك, right? أي حتى تبين حتى تبينيه لك, right? Until it's becoming clear to you. So again, حتى is harf jar, and the majrur is the masdar mu'awwal. وكي تعليلية نحو كي تقر عينها, right? كي أن كي كي قرار عينها, right? So this is a harf jar in this situation. So K is a bit funny because if I said li K, then li is a harf jar and K is the harf nasib. But if I said K, then you could either say there's an implied li or there's an implied an, right? وإذ لم تنوى قبلها لام تعليل, right? So if you imply if there's a lam ta'lil before it, even if it's implied, then it's not, then there's nothing, there's no an. Just li K, and li is a harf jar and K is a harf nasib. Making sense, Muhammad?
Yes.
Leonard, make sense? You familiar with the idea of masdar mu'awwal, Leonard?
Not by that name, but the concept is what.
So the idea is basically there are certain huruf masdari. There's a harf masdari. It's like an, like anna, like ma, right? There's two others, but they don't come up that much. What they actually do is they make the sentence after them act as if it was a mufrad. So for example, you say ذلك بما عصوا. That is because they disobeyed. So أي ذلك بأسيانهم. That's because of their disobedience. So ma is a harf masdari, ma masdariya. عصوا is a sentence, but it works as if it was a mufrad. It works as if it was the word بأسيان. Right? So the ba is entering upon a mufrad, not a jumla. Okay? أريد أن أذهب means أريد ذهابي. Right? I want my going. So أريد أن أذهب, the an plus the masdar plus the fi'al plus the fa'il في تأويل مصدر is understood as a masdar, تقديره, approximation of which is ذهابي. Right? So that's what's happening with an, that's what's happening with ma and anna. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله, أي أشهد على رسالة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. I bear witness to his prophethood, to his messengerhood. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes, Sheikh.
So these things, they could be maf'ul bihis, they could be fa'ils, they could be mudaf ilayh, right? Because it's basically like a noun. It makes the whole sentence work like a noun. Right? Okay, so that's called so that's what's happening with these huruf nasb that are actually harf jar. There is a harf jar, and then the jar is happening to the masdar mu'awwal that comes after it. أريد جئت لأن أدرس أي جئت لدراستي. Okay. خير. So now it says وأما حروف العطف. This can now get a bit weird. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say there's a harf atf. The harf atf has no amal. So how on earth is it going to do nasb to the word that comes after it? So it says وأما الأحرف العطف فأو نحو لأقتلن الكافر أو يسلم. And I will kill the kafir unless he becomes Muslim. Okay, so how to explain that? So we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to say O is a harf atf, has no amal. If this is mansub, there must be an implied an. So we're going to say لأقتلن الكافر أو أن يسلم. An plus yuslima equals islamuhu, right? Islamuhu. So he's becoming Muslim. Now Islam is a noun. It has to have some kind of sentence role in the sentence. And so now what's happening is that noun is being ma'atuf with the word o to a noun before it. Okay? So there must be some kind of noun that comes before Islamuhu. So let's try and do atf to al-kafir. I will kill the kafir or his Islam. That doesn't make any sense. You can't kill his Islam, right? So now what we're going to have to do is really dig deeper and say, what does it mean I will kill him? I.e., there will happen my killing of him or his becoming Muslim. So the sentence, what we call this is, we call it, so this is a bit way more tricky. We are not just saying that an yuslima is a masdar ma'awwal, but also saying that that masdar is ma'tuf to a previous masdar that's understood from the general meaning of the previous sentence. You both following me?
Somehow intuitively it makes sense.
Alhamdulillah, you must be very intelligent. So now, but then now you got to create that sentence. Like, how on earth does that work? Right? How on earth does that work? Right? So we call that masdar mutasayyad, a hunted out masdar, a masdar that you plucked out of the general thing. So the taqdeer is something this لا حصل يحصل لا يحصلن مني قتل للكافر أو إسلامه. Right? There will most definitely be my killing of the kafir or his becoming Muslim. Right? Does that make sense? So now, O Islamuhu is ma'tuf to qatli, because qatli is the fa'il of yahsulu. So that actually there's actually a structural logic to it, as opposed to no structural logic. Okay? You following Muhammad and Leonard?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go through the steps again. لأقتلن الكافر أو يسلم. What does it mean? Unless he becomes, I'll most definitely kill the kafir unless he becomes Muslim. Okay, so you say, oh, does it have amal? No. And the Kufiyun, they say, yeah, it has amal. خلاص, easy done. Right? But they don't have a very good answer to things. Right? So the Kufiyun are going to be like, why is it lightning? Allah made lightning. The sky was stressed. Why was it lightning? Because it was about to rain. That's not a very good answer, right? The Kufiyun, the Basriyun are like this. Oh, there's lightning because atoms are composed of protons and neutrons, electrons, and the electrons flow and they make bonds, and sometimes they can't flow, so because that's called static electricity. So the static electricity builds up, and then basically you get this sudden jump of electrons, right? So that's a prescriptive thing, meaning there's got to be some logic to everything. Now we made this assumption that everything in the world, or all matter around us has electrons, or all, basically, all everything like the book apparently has electrons. So the Kufiyun will be like, what are you talking about? Where are the electrons in this book? So then we say, well, rub it. You're going to get static electricity. You're going to see things. The fact that it's bonds together. This is probably, sharing chemical bonds is all based on electrons, right? Um, so that's a different way of thinking. So that's why the Kufiyun died out, because they were descriptivists and not prescriptivists. But it makes it very difficult and complex. Right? Like, wouldn't it be easier to say the sky was stressed and it was about to rain? So, right, there we go. Makes sense to me. Makes sense to my kids, right? And you don't have to worry about anything else. But it's not very accurate. Right? And it's not creating a whole system. So the Basrans, they had more of a system, right? So the Basrans, they say, O cannot is a harf at, does not have amal. So why on earth is the word yuslima mansub? Say, remember we've seen dituli and adrusa, that sometimes the an can be implied. Okay, now it's implied here. O an yuslima. Fantastic. Okay, if it's an yuslima, that must be a mufrad, meaning islamuhu or islamahu or islamihi, something like that. And that has to be ma'tuf to something else, right? If there's a mufrad, it has to be with a o before, it has to be ma'tuf to something else. Where is the ma'tuf alayhi? I'm going to take it from a reinterpreted, right? Reinterpreted, what's it called? A way of phrasing this sentence. Take it from the general meaning of the sentence, right? So now this mufrad will be ma'tuf to a general word within that sentence in the general meaning of that sentence. Okay? You both happy?
Yes.
Very.
Very happy. Alhamdulillah. Okay. وفاء سببية, same thing. فاء is for عطف, right? فاء سببية واو معية في الأجوبة الثمانية. جواب الأمر نحو تعالى فأحسن إليك. Right? Come so that I may. Right? That I may, or so that I may do this. أو وأحسن إليك. Right? So here they put the fa and the waw together almost as if they're the same. So grammatically it is true they are basically the same, but meaning-wise they're not the same. Okay? So I don't know how you say this in French or how you say this in Dutch. But in English it comes out quite differently. Right? So ta'ala wa uhsina ilayk, that means come while I am being nice to you. Whereas ta'ala fa uhsina ilayka means come so that I may be nice to you. وجواب النهي لا تخاصم زيدا فيغضب or ويغضب. Right? So here don't argue with Zaid lest he get angry. فيغضب, lest he get angry. Right? So that's the word lest, right? For fear that, right? Do you have a phrase like that in Dutch, Lanat?
Let me think.
The word lest is a bit of a weird word in English. It's not that common. It's kind of almost like archaic and old. Don't do this lest this should happen. Someone who's a bit pompous, they might start a sentence like this. They might say, lest I should forget. Please let me please be informed this, like for fear that I forget. Right? So that's very different to wow. So وَيَغْضَبْ, don't argue with Zaid while he's getting angry. Right? So the wow ma'iyya means while, whereas the fa is very different. So that and lest. وجواب التمني نحو ليت الشباب يعود فأتزوجه. If only I could be young again so that I can get married, right? وأتزوج while I'm getting married, right? That's not really. So notice they put it together. The first one, so that grammatically they're the same, but meaning wise, the first one makes a lot of sense. The second one doesn't really make much sense, right? The first one is if only I could, if only youth would return so that I could get married, right? The other one is وأتزوج while I'm getting married, which doesn't really make any sense. ونحو ليت لي مالا فأحج منه أو وأحج منه. If only I had some money so that I could go on Hajj with it. And the other one is while I'm going Hajj with it, that doesn't make any sense at all, right? وجواب الترجي. So تمني, it's not going to happen. ترجي, it may happen. نحو لعلي أراجع الشيخ فيفهمني أو ويفهمني. So hopefully I can go back to the sheikh and he can explain the issue to me again, so that he might explain it again, or while he's explaining it to me again. وجواب العرض, to offer something. نحو ألا تنزل عندنا فنكرمك أو ونكرمك, right? وجواب التحضيض, similar kind of thing, right? So العرض, التحضيض, الأمر, same kind of thing. نحو هلا أحسنت إلى زيد فيشكرك, right? Such that he might. So that's another translation, such that. Why don't you do this such that, right? ويشكرك. وجواب الاستفهام نحو هل لزيد صديق فيركن إليه. Also in عامية we say يركن, أركن عليك, but it's not ركن يركن, I think, right, Muhammad?
We don't say it. We don't use it.
You don't use it at all, okay.
No.
I think it's يركن.
Yes.
Oh no, here it has a ضبط يركن. It has here's a fatha. But I know that in Jordan, in this 11 they say أركن عليك, can I rely on you? You know, أركن. But I think he has a fatha, Allahu Alam. ركن يركن, to be a bit odd. Maybe it's rakina yarkanu, and they say it the other way around. Allahu Alam. Anyway, so if only he had a friend, or does he have a friend such that, right? Or you might even add the word even. Does he even have a friend such that he might rely on him? وَيَرْكَنَ عَلَيْهِ, and he relies on him. It just sounds odd. So I'm not really quite sure. They do this a lot. They put the wow and the fa. They don't really have the same meaning, and it kind of sounds odd. وجواب الدعاء نحو ربي وفقني فأعمل صالحا, right? Such that I might do good deeds. وبعد النفي المحض, right? Meaning actual nafi, right? لا يقضى على زيد فيموت, right? Zayd will not be finished off such that he might die, right? لا يقضى عليهم فيموتوا, right? That's the verse of the Quran, right? They will not be finished off such that they will actually die, right? Right? يا بني آدم لن تبلغوا ضري فتضروني. You won't actually be able to harm me such that you could actually harm me, right? Okay, so that's what's happening. So fa sababiyya is used in pre-classical Arabic. We see it in the Quran, we see it in the Hadith. It is not used in classical Arabic. So you will not see it in a fiqh book. You will not see it in, in the commentaries and for that. They don't use it. They use the word hatta, right? They say, for example, ليس بريطانيا حتى يعرف كذا وكذا. He's not English such that he should know about this and this in British culture, for example, right? Hatta, that's what they use. So use this in modern standard Arabic or use this in Fusha, right? In meaning classical Arabic. But when you get to pre-classical Arabic, they're going to use the first sababiyya. It comes in Hadith a lot. It comes in the Quran a lot, right? Okie dokie. Make sense, inshallah? So now with these, again, the same structure is going to be there, right? لن يصدر لا يصدر or لا يقع على زيد قضاء فموت. That's the structure. لا يقع على زيد قضاء فموت, or something like that. لا يحصل لزيد قضاء فموت. So فيموت is موته, right? Or al-maut, something like that. And the mufrad is ma'tuf to a masdar mutasayyad. There's another word as well, masdar, something they might use. Mutahayyi. I'm not sure if they will use that word, but mutasayyad, right? Tasayyada, to try and hunt something out of something, right? Imagine there's a bird in a bush and you're trying to get it out, right? Okay. Khair. Make sense, inshallah?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to pause the recording and restart.